What's popping my pupils? So it's gonna be a little shaky. I'm gonna be doing a walk this time. Really good question for you. Why is the moon all the way up there when the sun is still on the horizon? Interesting. All right, so this video I want to talk about the ego, and bear with me. It's gonna be a little, I know, like I said before, it's gonna be a little bouncy. I'm gonna be getting the rest of my camera equipment from my parents' house soon, hopefully. The topic I want to talk about today was the ego. I did mention it briefly and how the cycle kind of works on Instagram, so I'm going to post it on Instagram as well. But so the ego, what have I started to notice as I've started really trying to focus on the light and the love? So the first thing I want to get off the hand is anytime you get influenced outside of yourself. So you know the saying that you're supposed to do everything that feels right just for you, fuck everything else. And then you also have society, and I noticed a huge push on social media. This guy named Stefanio or something like that, and he's like, you know, there's a bunch of weak men out there, right? And stop being a little bitch and just go. Well, here's what I think is going on with that, and what I kind of agree with and what I kind of don't agree with. So you're supposed to be this quote unquote strong man that has a certain type of fortitude to you, and it really gets brought across as kind of like what I remember my dad being and like the older generations being. And I can tell you from personal experience, when I was younger, because I didn't have any friends that took on that adult role, I found myself very lost, because as a young kid, especially throughout all of high school, I was always the one that was like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. That's like, you know what I mean? Like I was being the adult. So I never was able to quote unquote experience that childhood for the period of, and I'm sure you guys are well aware now as you get older, that the end of high school is pretty much the last time that you can literally almost do whatever you want without there being too many consequences. So certain things, yes, you can still get screwed, but for the most part, you can dick around, and you know, even the police will give you a huge kind of like, it's a kid, you know, kind of deal. They'll try to let you off, because deep down for them, you're gonna see that everything's been cleaned out lately. You know, they still care about you, and it's like, you're 16, 17 years old. Like, they don't want to give you, well, depending on some of them, but they don't want to screw you over. They don't want to put you with a misdemeanor that leaves you, you know, with a thing on your record at 17. They don't want to do that. And so this whole kind of character built up that was this adult, and it was very much egoic. And what I want you guys to try to focus on is, when do I get influenced? One second. When do I get influenced by outside sources? When does it start to annoy me and bother me? So especially toward friends and stuff like that. So let's say they ask you to do something and they're kind of manipulative about it, and they're kind of overly expecting, and they just expect you to do it, right? Well, and then you get indirectly mad at that person, and then your ego will come up with something to say that's negative about them, right? I can give an example. So let's say my friend says, hey, like, when are you coming, or like, not even when are you coming over, they say ETA, you know, which is already assuming that I'm going to come and hang out with them. No gratitude whatsoever for my time and my reality and what I'm doing, only for that person and that individual. Okay. So let's say you do hang out with that person. All right. I hang out with that person, and then it's taking up way too much of my time, and I was going to go do something else. Right. And now I'm mad, and then I have to find someone to be mad at. Well, that's the ego. See, the ego is telling me that I have to be mad at blank, that friend, when in reality, it was my fault, my non-boundary, my egoicness that allowed that to happen. And the more we do this, the more that kind of gets seeped into us, and the more we kind of get stuck in that process of this projection. Anytime that you get upset, anytime that you get impatient, anytime that it isn't a state of love, It's part of the ego in a way. I'm not saying you have to try to become numb or try to have this sort of feeling that, I'm gonna try to lift it up here, see if that works. This type of feeling that you aren't doing what's best for you. And that's what I'm trying to get at here, is the ego kind of misdirects us. And it puts us in a place that makes it very difficult to obtain the peace, obtain the silence, obtain the serenity that we're trying to look for, the serenity that we're trying to feel inside of us, that we keep missing, that we use drugs, alcohol, and especially phones to try to get out of this awkwardness. How many times have you done something, gone to a party, gone to anywhere, any social event, and you start talking to someone, and then maybe you look away, or you're centered in yourself, but they're not? They'll immediately feel awkward in the moment, and what do? They pull out their phone and then pretend to look at something, right? That is the escape of feeling that you can't just be in the moment. That type of non-presence is there. When you have this type of non-presence, it almost kind of lures you in and then keeps you there. And it keeps you up here, is the best way I can describe it. It always keeps you in the head. So then what do? What I've done for myself, and what I've been starting to notice as I continue and progress, is this feeling that every single person I come in contact with, I will see their name, I'll know them, I'll get to know them, and then in my head, I will literally go, I love you, I accept you, because we are together. This kind of almost forces your ego to go, well, if they're me, then that means the I doesn't exist. And it'll pressure it a lot. And the more and more you do this, the more and more your kind of heart energy, or who you believe to be something, expands. Right? And when my friend Garin, shout out to Garin, what's up, dude? He had mentioned and is really working on this kind of time and Tesseract thing, and how when we dream, because I've been having a lot of dreams lately, it's only like a split second. But to us, it's like an hour, right? We wake up and it seems like an hour. But what we're doing is it is a split second dream that we're having. But the difference is the split second dream is then elongated outward. And again, a egoic thing would be, no, it's an hour. I know it's an hour. I can see on the clock. But in reality, it's actually just a split second time frame that we are leaving our body from the DMT. I'm thinking Garing is going to make a video on this once he fully grasps what's kind of going on. I can't explain the science behind it, but I can explain how I use it and how I can see it and how I can feel it in reality. So again, the first thing I was talking about with we are together. I love you, we are together. That creates that type of expansion. It creates that type of time kind of contingency, or time expansion in a way. So when you really start to come from your heart, what you can do is you can actually start to breathe into your heart, and it will actually start to expand. And then the more knowledge and awareness you have, the more that you realize that you are actually expanding, not in your egoic sense of identity of self, this body, this meat sack, but it's the understanding of a certain type of consciousness. So when you're not playing a role, when you're not playing a certain type of person, then you're becoming you're becoming a be, not a person. So the best way I can describe it is like, I can stand here, for instance, this is a beautiful view, and I can just stand here and be. And what I mean by be is like, I immediately ask myself, oh, that's really cool. I ask myself, okay, I'll stand there and I'll go, okay, what's my body feeling? Okay, what am I hearing? Okay, what am I seeing? And it's not looking, okay? So I'm not specifically looking at that electrical pole. I'm seeing the entirety of this and not trying to look at a specific point. I'm opening it up to see all of it at once, not focusing on one thing. And this is very true because our eyes are just lenses. They're literally just a piece. It'd be like if you're looking through a glass pane door, okay? because you're looking through it. You're seeing through it. You're not trying to look at a specific piece on the glass door. You're seeing through it. Exactly the same thing as our eyes. And when we can do this, it starts to allow us to see a larger portion and point of view. It starts to recognize that and starts to de-escalate the size of the ego, the size of how much it thinks that we are a thing or an entity or a certain person or a certain duality of different players in the game. So let's say that it gets to the point where I go, I just gotta play the game, right? I just gotta act a certain way to get money, to get a family, to get everything, right? So I have to act a certain way to get a girlfriend. I have to, because in society you have to be a certain type of dude normally to pick up a certain type of woman, right? You have to play that game, if you will, play that identity, play that player. You know what I mean? Becoming the doctor, the lawyer, the dentist, all of that, right? They're all roles. They're all identities that we play. What if we can use the information that we got from that identity, but then didn't identify with that player or that person that's the orthodontist, right? But instead, we just be, and then if the client has a question, or if you know based on all of your information and facts, you can give them that information, but you're not playing that role, for instance. All right, so like a girl that's a porn star, this is the best way I can describe it. A girl that's a porn star right now, when they're having sex, there's not a lot of women that are genuine with it, right? It's a fake little face. It's all fake, but they've gotten extremely good at it to the point where they can't tell the difference between them and what's on the camera, right? Because it's all about the shot. It's all about the pleasure. It's all about the look of it, right? The playing the face, playing the game, playing the identity. And when you do this, your ego then starts to grasp onto all these different identities. And then the more you do that, the more you start to identify with things, the more that you become tethered to reality's way of thinking of what you are. But the more and more you can start to decentralize that idea, decentralize this thought process that I am that doctor. No, you are a being that has knowledge, skills, and facts about a doctor. And when someone comes to you and they give you symptoms, then you use your knowledge and that playing of identity of doctor to give it to them. I hope this kind of makes sense. So then the next thing that you'd be asking yourself is, okay, so let's say I've de-identified as a person. I just be now. All I do is look. Then what happens? Then I would really start to focus on opening your heart. So start to notice every single time that you look at something and have an emotional response to it, okay? For instance, okay, let's say, and this is something that I actually found very, very struggling and hard for me to do and to overcome, right? So I'm playing tennis with my dad, and there's a certain type of victimization that he puts himself in, where he'll play down his own emotions and he'll victimize himself in order to get attention or an energetic feedback from the other individual. All right, and this happens a lot during tennis. Is he'll have expectations to play extremely well, even though he hasn't played tennis in literally like 5 years, but expects to hit every single shot as hard as he possibly can, hits every single line, does all of that, right? Well, what if we were to have that with inside myself? That's where it gets a little interesting, because I'm looking at that and I'm going, I'm not that. I'm not him. There's no way, right? That's my ego going, I don't want to be those negative behaviors. I don't want to be that. That's fucking it's not good. I don't want to be that. I'm past that already, right? That's the ego trying to associate itself with an identity, with a those are negative or positive traits, but it's not. It's just who he is. If he was just being, then you have to love it for what it is. And when I was able to love him and love every part of it for what it was, it didn't have that emotional impact on me anymore. That victimization and stuff didn't have that type of impact on me anymore. I wasn't looking down on him because of that impact. And that's huge, because almost every single person that we have in life, we have that kind of impact with, where we have that judgment to that person. You know, maybe there's a homeless person and I don't know, they're coked up on something, and then they're freaking out because there's entities and stuff. Well, this is because our ego is trying to identify. It is trying to identify us with a certain level on the playing field, and that this homeless person is way lower than us, and that we have to be better. This feeling of the superiority. That's another one. So there's probably infinite amounts of different variables that you need to put into this, but every single person's a little different. What I'm trying to get at is recognizing those specific traits that your ego has in reality that's allowing it to come out like that. And then saying, thank you, ego, because now that you've shown me this, I can let it go. I can move forward. I can come back in a positive way. And when I did that for 3 days straight. It was a constant loop cycle, right? So I would purposely put myself in a situation where my ego would pop up, okay? A good example would be yesterday. I was with Joe, and we were helping this lady out who I'd never met before hang a light fixture. It was a fan with a light fixture on it, okay? And his knowledge of how to take a fan down was completely different than the one that we were building. But he's like, oh yeah, you just got to take that part down, right? And then I go, okay, sure. You obviously know what you're doing. Even though I had prior experience and knowledge of putting up 3 fans literally last month, right? So I had all that in my back of my head, but I listened to him. And I take the whole thing apart, and I realize after I take everything apart, it takes like 25 minutes of me unwiring everything, unscrewing everything, because it's a multiple level a fan. And then that's when I realized he was completely wrong. And in that moment, my ego got so mad at him. I was like, I can't believe you were, you know what I mean? All these, and I'll say it because you gotta, these thoughts will happen in your head. I was like, oh my, like how stupid can you be? Like how would you even know that this is the same one as yours? You know what I mean? But everyone's taking their knowledge and then trying to place it in reality, their point of view, okay? And I had to physically stop myself. And this was like this was a huge emotional pain body for me. Like, it was turning my stomach up. I wanted to yell at him, all this kind of stuff, right? And for everything else, it doesn't matter. Like, when I've worked with him at the mall for months, it's never bothered me. And that's when I recognized that, again, I had to use it as a learning lesson and move forward. And so then we had to do it again, where I'm like, read the instructions, please, because I don't know what I'm supposed to do right here, right? And so he reads the instructions, or really what I feel like is read the instructions. And we're putting it together, and we still can't figure it out. It's still not working. And I'm like, what the hell? So then I read the instructions, and he didn't actually read the instructions. He just looked at the pictures. I read the first line on where it said, install the fan, and it literally tells you where you're supposed to stick the screwdriver in to do it, because you can't do it just the other way around, right? And again, in that instance, I got upset, because it's like, okay, I literally just asked you to read just one sentence on a piece of paper that would have helped us minimize like 30 to 45 minutes worth of dumb crap that we had to go through to try to figure this out. So the lesson I was needing to learn was patience, was that I am not superior or inferior to anyone on this planet. I am even, I am balanced, I am equal to everyone. But our ego always wants to change into superiority or a feeling of inferiority as a protective mechanism, as a survival mechanism. You don't have to have that. So that's kind of where I'm at with the ego and where it's at. I will also recommend, and I would thank you very much if you've gotten to this part of the video. I know it's been 20 minutes, and a lot of people's attention spans can't last that long, but really, from my heart, I thank you. So because of that, I'll give you a little really good snippet. As you start to do this, as you start to love every part of you, and then like almost internalize it, and then love it, and then have it come back out, you'll see a refraction difference in the reality. People will talk to you differently. People will act differently around you. And I think this is really interesting, because it proves to you that this does change your reality. Your beliefs change your reality. And the last thing I'd like to add before I go is, when you start to do this, your ego is on this side, okay, which is the left side, of your body, all right? And it's like a little tube that's right here, and it kind of goes in the back, so it's inside your head. As you start to do this, it will literally start to move downward, and you'll feel the pressure literally start to move down your head and then into your neck. And it goes all the way down until your knee right here is where your ego has held. So you'll see a lot of people with knee braces right here. It's because they have some type of trauma with their ego that they haven't let go of yet. It's a huge one. I still have to figure out what the right knee is. I believe it has to do with there's another tube on this side that I haven't let go of yet. I think it has to do with like the seeing thing I was talking about, and this certain type of belief system that like I can see the fabric of space and time, and I can see the fabric of energy and stuff. But I have to believe it. And even though I've seen it and I've seen it and believed it beforehand, I guess I've reconditioned myself to still not have faith to that. Now, when you can completely let this go, I think it's really awesome and very powerful. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.